What's up, wall fans and common sensors? Welcome to the video feed. That's right, the video feed. We always do a little kickoff here. For the video feed, this is Common Sense Sundays, episode 130, with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, of course, your favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. I am exhausted today, as I am sure many of you are as well, for good reason. Goddamn time change. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, because we've been off for a couple weeks. So all that being said, let's just get right into it. All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, welcome to another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and this is episode 130. I gotta look at that episode count, because we are getting close to, 200? 300? I think we're getting close to 300. A lot of freaking episodes. We're gonna have to have a little, multi-centibration the way we did for episode 100 many years ago. Feels like forever ago. My child was barely talking. No, I don't think she was talking a lot at that point. Anyway, we are back with another exciting episode. And of course, we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, before episodes, anytime you please. And you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be Facebook. Facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, Facebook.com/. Little slash there. Go Tell It to the Wall. You also have our official YouTube channel, which is all these lovely video feeds for those of you that maybe only listen through your podcast apps, whatever you might enjoy the most. We do have video feeds, and they're up on YouTube as well as Facebook. So youtube.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. Really just got to remember Go Tell It to the Wall, and you can find us if you search it. Even if you just put it into Google, it's going to pop up. And then, of course, we have my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean. That is not a ton of Go Tell It to the Wall content, but if you're interested in photo content, especially pertaining to the shows and the bands that I talk about, then you're going to find great stuff on there. Again, at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, right there on Instagram. And, of course, if you remember none of that, you just have to remember SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Going to have links to those platforms that I just mentioned, as well as other exclusive content that only gets posted to the website, and our Patreon campaign. So if you want to become a patron and support the show financially, that is the best way to do so. It helps us bring new stuff into the studio and all that great stuff. This podcast doesn't make a ton of money. This is really, it's a branding situation, I guess you could say, for me personally, as well as for our fan base that just likes to spread the common sense throughout the world as we record these episodes of me yelling at a wall. And as I said at the top of the video feed, I'm absolutely exhausted today. This goddamned time change. Every freaking year, we go through this in the spring. Fall's not so bad, but the spring, good Lord. And for those of you that don't have kids, young kids, I think probably even teenagers. I haven't experienced that as like having a teenager yet. It's difficult on the kids too. Like they don't care about a time change. Even pets. You think my dog gives a crap about a time change? No, he wants his food when he gets his damn food. So we got to get rid of this thing. I swear to God, we talk about it every couple years. And I also vaguely remember California like voting to get rid of time change in other states as well. I don't know why we're still doing this damn thing every year. Tomorrow there's going to be an increased amount of accidents on the road because people are just still thrown off with this time change stuff. So hopefully in my lifetime we will see an end to it. Just really tired of it, you know. And for those of you that I don't know, have a vast knowledge of exactly the daylight savings time and stuff, but I do know it has to do with farmers who many years ago, when you didn't really have a lot of access to electricity and stuff, it was to help them with planting crops and stuff. Well, now we have so much technology. We don't need to keep doing this. Let's just please knock it off, you know. And don't try pulling a Kramer. For those of you that used to watch Seinfeld, you can't just ignore it. That's the thing, because then suddenly you're going to be late for everything. So you can't individually ignore it. We gotta come at this thing from a common sense standpoint and stop. Like there's literally statistics to show the increase in car accidents and stuff like that. Let's knock it off. All right, now that we've successfully ranted to open up episode 130 of Common Sense Sundays, let's get into some social and digital trends. We're a little behind because we haven't been in the studio for a couple weeks. We got to talk about it. It happened a few weeks ago. It got beaten to death. Now everyone's kind of past it, but we're going to talk about it. And that is the RFK Jr. fitness video. I guess you could call it a fitness video. It looked more like softcore gay porn to me. For those of you that haven't seen it, definitely look it up. It's embarrassing, but it's a must-see. The fact that any individual on the face of the earth would make that video and think it's a good thing to put it out in public just blows my mind. Again, unless you're making a softcore gay porn like reel or trailer, I don't know. I don't even know what's going on there. Just you can't be serious with any of this. And I'm sure everyone has seen it. Most people that will listen to this podcast have seen it. Jeans in the goddamn cold plunge and in the pool. Who wears jeans in the pool? Now, of course, from a social trend standpoint, people started comparing it to the dude from Arrested Development, the Never Nude guy, which this is even worse on RFK because at least the Never Nude guy had like Daisy Dukes on. There's full-on jeans. No shirt, no shoes, socks, anything, jeans. And then, as someone who is not a fitness expert by any means, but I have spent a lot of time, for those of you on the video feed, you can see some of my triathlon stuff up here. I did triathlons. It's been a while. Put on some weight since then, but I have experienced, doing physical fitness and working out at a gym. You don't go into a sauna or a steam room or a, what is that? Like, there's the different ones. This is the one covered in wood that they have in the video. You don't work out in there. It's not a workout area. It's where you go and sit and sweat. So that makes absolutely no sense. And the other one that really got me is why the hell is Kid Rock flipping the bird at the camera? We're talking about a politician here, along with I guess a musician, if you want to call him that. He's not very talented by any means. Putting out a video like with a government official, and he's flipping off the camera. I really don't understand any aspect of that video. And you got to be a special kind of person if you watch that video and you're inspired to go to the gym and work out. You might be inspired to watch some gay porn. That I get. But I don't understand how you'd be inspired to go to the gym and work out after viewing that video. It's utterly amazing. And full disclosure, I think I've mentioned this before. A few years ago, I actually did find myself at the residence of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I was working for a company that did party game night stuff. Had no idea where I was going, and ended up there. It was very odd. It was just very odd. His wife, what's her name from, that Larry David show? She was very kind. Did have a chance to meet Barbara Streisand. She showed up to the party for some reason. But full disclosure, there was a time where I found myself in the anti-vaxxers' house, and not super proud of that, but it does happen. I will tell you, if you're one of the people out there like myself that does events, you maybe these are things that should be disclosed, especially if you're going into a den of disease, like what would be RFK Jr.'s house. All right, anyway, moving along. So the Olympics are over. I know. I hope everyone enjoyed them. I enjoyed them to an extent. I will say one of the things that blew my mind and I was laughing at for like 2 weeks straight was people being shocked that there's a lot of hockey players who are Republicans. We're going to talk more about the selective outrage as we get into entertainment. But for those of you not aware, there are a lot of Republicans in the National Hockey League. I would say of the four major North American sports here that most people in the U.S. watch, NHL would be the worst. And you're probably going to have football, NFL, and then baseball. All of those are pretty bad. Basketball, you're not going to find quite as much. There's obvious reasons for that. I'm not going to sit here and make it a racial thing, but there's obvious reasons for that. Okay, so don't be shocked when your favorite, football player or something comes out wearing a MAGA hat, because that shit has happened. Not my favorite football players, but we've seen it. It happens. So anyway, the Olympics, that's all I'm going to talk about hockey. It was nice to see them win a gold medal, but Jesus Christ, the orange one and just his sexism and everything else is utterly astounding. But speaking of sexism, I do want to talk about Alyssa Liu, who has been trending on the social platform. She won the gold medal in figure skate, women's figure skating, first gold medal since, 2000, something like that. I don't keep track, but they did talk about it. See, I grew up we were just winning gold medals, man. Figure skating, same thing with gymnastics. We're just U.S. just getting gold medals. So she won the gold medal. She's 20 years old, and quite the character. Just watching her skate was an absolute pleasure. The joy on her face The fact that she just does not give a shit what anyone else thinks of her. But the reason I have it here in social and digital trends is there's been a lot of stuff posted online. I keep seeing these. Was a photo of her sticking her tongue out after winning the medal, and people were calling it something. I don't know what the kids refer to things these days, but we used to call it. If your kids are listening, cover their ears. We used to call it. You add it to the spank bank. It's for lack of a better term, and people thought they were sexualizing her essentially. And then there's another picture that's come out. I don't even know if it's real, and it's her feet, and people are sexualizing it. And it makes me, something I often think about, how over-sexualized we are as a society, especially here in the U.S., but all around the world. There's a 20-year-old woman, a young woman, who won a gold medal. She wants to stick her tongue out. We can't automatically sexualize that. It's absolutely crazy to me that we live in a world today where simply sticking your tongue out means you should be sexualized. When I was a kid, it was just rude. And then we kind of owned it. You're like, yeah, stick your tongue out and everything. With Michael Jordan in the 90s, that tongue flying out when he's going up for a dunk and stuff. No, they weren't sexualizing him. And then to take it full circle, for those of you not aware of this, she appeared on one of the late night shows. I believe it was Jimmy Fallon. It was probably one of the Jimmys. If it's a late night show, you can guess Jimmy, and you got like a 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4 chance of being correct on that one. And she wore really baggy clothes. And then people complained about that. It's like, what do you want? She is a 20-year-old gold medal Olympian. She can do whatever the hell she wants. She's not here for your pleasure by any means. She's just living her life. And I would like to point out on this International Women's Day that women are not here for your entertainment. They don't need to smile. There's no responsibility that women have toward anyone else on the face of the earth. Maybe if they're a mother and they should be taking care of their kids, but that's completely different from what we're talking about. Women are not here for your entertainment. All right, moving along. One more thing I want to talk about here is these burger tasting videos. Have you seen these? Honestly, I haven't even watched the full video. I've seen clips of them. So McDonald's, I guess, has some new burger, which it looks like it costs about $9. For the love of God. A $9 McDonald's cheeseburger is just absurd. Absolutely absurd. But I digress. So the McDonald's CEO comes on and does a little video, and I guess he tastes this new burger, and people were giving him a hard time because it looked like he didn't like it. He didn't take a real bite, whatever it was. So then there's a lot of backlash on that. And then all the other burger CEOs decided to come out and shoot videos of themselves tasting their burgers. Wendy's did it. Burger King did it. I haven't seen a Jack in the Box one, though. That would be hilarious if we put the Jack in the Box mascot somehow tasting a Jumbo Jack. That might work. But I think I've even seen, like, Wiener Schnitzel and stuff. It's really getting out of hand. And here's the thing. That's fine if that's the kind of social content you want to put out there. I mean, Wendy's has been trolling every account on the face of the earth for years now. That's fine. But the whole back and forth about, our burger is better than yours and blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing, wall fans, common sensors. Just eat what you like. We don't have to argue about what is the best burger. Everyone has their different preferences. I jokingly, when I'm out with people eating pizza, and this happened recently, someone I was like, oh my God, what do you do with pineapple on your pizza? Do I really care? No. We constantly have to have these burger wars, and it's just, everyone has a different preference. It's kind of like the Texas versus California thing and Whataburger versus In-N-Out. I'm not going to say I prefer In-N-Out, but if someone says they prefer Whataburger, I'm not going to argue with you. That's cool. Eat your Whataburger. Compared to the other big ones, I prefer Jack in the Box, but I understand if someone prefers a Burger King or a Wendy's or whatever it might be. Just eat the damn burger you like. And this is not something that we need to constantly talk about, though it has been. I open social platforms and it's like, great, more of the burger eating CEOs. And you know what I say to all those burger eating CEOs, chicken sandwich eating CEOs, hot dog eating CEOs? Instead of trying to take videos of you eating your own food, maybe pay your employees a livable wage. It's kind of what we care about a little more. I don't give a shit what you think about your own damn burger. I eat what I like, but maybe pay your people. If your company's raking in billions of dollars and you're raising your prices, maybe you should be raising wages as well. All right, let's move along, talk some mental health. Man, I feel like we've just been ranting to top this one. There's going to be a lot of ranting today. In fact, mental health is going to be some ranting. See how that goes. We're going to talk more about the Orange Menace and his ridiculousness, which really isn't hard. You just mention the orange. Just a picture of the Orange Menace. You just say, "Look how ridiculous this is." All right, mental health. I want to talk about because for those of us here in the United States of America, we find ourselves in yet another war. It's really, really astounding to me. We always hear this, no new wars. And this isn't even a republic. I mean, this happens to be a Republican president who has put us into a war unnecessarily to cover up and avoid actual information that is important to the United States. We're talking bombing children and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, every president's done this. I feel like I have been in a war ever since I've been alive. I lived in San Diego in the very early 90s when we went to when we had Desert Storm. And of course, the war wasn't taking place here, but when you live in a town like San Diego when actual war is declared, there's a lot of shit going on. For those of you not familiar with San Diego, multiple military bases down there. Very large military population. Went to school with a lot of kids of military families. And it's constant. We're in Afghanistan, and now here we are in Iran. And the reason I bring this up is it's absolutely going to have an adverse effect on your mental health. I've seen it happening to me. I've seen it happening to my family, my friends. And a lot of us just feel helpless. And honestly, we're helpless to an extent. You can protest. Everyone has the right to protest and make their voice heard. I have the right to sit here and yell at a wall about it. But there's only so much you can do. We can't physically block this administration from dropping bombs on children in Iran. But what we can do is stay informed while at the same time still taking care of your mental health. And the other side of this is, which just recently came out, and this gets talked about every few years. Gosh, I remember when I was of that age and it being talked about. And the Orange Menace came out and said he is not opposed to reinstating the military draft. The military draft. We haven't had this thing forever. Now, it's always been you have to sign up for the draft. I remember the day I signed up for the draft. I think I still have my draft card somewhere around here. It's probably sitting in a bin or something. And the reason I did it is, for those of you not aware, especially if you have kids or if you're a teenager in high school listening to this podcast, you cannot get financial aid from the government to go to college without enlisting in the draft. You have to register for the draft. Now, the draft doesn't get used. So back when I did it, it was like, okay, this is fine. I'll sign up for this thing. I'm pretty sure I'm too damn old now. They don't want me going out there, man. Especially with the purple hair. You're like, who's this purple-haired idiot running around? That's me, sir. But the bottom line is this is going to have an adverse effect on you, those around you. It is very difficult when you have kids to then talk about it. I mean, geez, my kid is 9 years old, and we're just constantly talking about violence in other countries. Whether it's a war that we're in or whether it's Russia invading Ukraine, Israel carrying out a genocide in Palestine. It's constant. And not only do we have to take care of ourselves, but we have to take care of our kids and those around us. So my advice to you is take in as much as you can, be informed, but also take a break from it. We always talk about taking a break from social media, clearing your head, because you can. This is absolutely one of those situations where you just can feel helpless at times, and most of us are helpless. We can't stop this. We can make our voices heard, but there's only so much you can do there. We don't have the power to stop the orange one from just doing whatever the hell he wants and dropping bombs on other countries. So take care of your mental health. Hopefully we will all get through this. Hopefully there'll be minimized violence. I don't even know what to think anymore. We just, as a society, so many people in our society, in this country and around the world, just don't care about the lives of other people. They only care about themselves. There's no compassion. That's what we're lacking, especially in the U.S. All right, let's talk some positive news. That's right. This one I was a little iffy on. So, for those of you who might have heard this past week, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, I can't even look at her face without laughing and cringing at the same time. She was fired the other day finally, cosplay Barbie here was fired. She's the one that, even if you don't know who she is, you've seen clips. She shows up in a cowboy hat. She shows up in ice attire. All kinds of different stuff. She's just flying around the country, putting on different cosplay things. Well, she was finally fired. It won't even give the Orange Menace credit for this one. It got so bad that he had to be like, oh, okay, well, here we are. And one thing I'm so confused about is she testified before Congress. She said something about spending money on an ad campaign. The Orange Menace came out, and that it was approved by the Orange Menace. Then he came out and said, I knew nothing about that. Here's where we live in the United States of America. She perjured herself, and there's been no consequences outside of her being fired. Perjury is, I believe, a federal offense. It's not something you can just do. You can't perjure yourself. I'm old enough to remember impeaching a sitting president over potential perjury. We could argue the semantics of that, whatever. But think about how far we've come as a country. Now we don't give a shit. And the other thing is, I don't know much about this guy that's the interim, but apparently he's a moron too, so I don't know. We've made a lateral move, but the positive side of this is at least we don't have to see this stupid cosplay constantly popping up on the TV. I mean, she's terrifying, this Christina. If you haven't seen her, I don't even want to say Google her image, but man, if you do, you just look and you're like, holy shit, she's going to steal my soul. And also, how much fake tan lip fillers and Botox can you put into one face? Apparently, as much as you want, because that's what she's got going on. All right, parenting. Let's talk some parenting. It was a great day in my house this weekend. Girl Scout cookie sales are officially over. Now, semantics, they did extend it by like a week where they're letting Girl Scouts get rid of existing stock, but the cookie sales are over. We're done. I've only got a couple boxes left in my house, not boxes falling on top of me as we're in the middle of it. My wife and daughter, every year they do this, and it's just exhausting. They're both exhausted, and now getting some well-deserved rest after the months push of selling cookies and doing cookie booths and everything else. I mean, these Girl Scouts work very hard to raise money for the Girl Scouts. This is obviously their biggest thing they do every year. And amazingly, my daughter set a goal. She hit that goal, and she set another stretch goal. She hit that goal, and she set another stretch goal. And now, apparently, I'm going to be going to Hurricane Harbor as one of her prizes from selling enough cookies. I'll be taking my daughter to Hurricane Harbor with a bunch of Girl Scouts. I don't know if I'll ride any water slides, but we'll see how that goes. I want to talk about a high school that we have here in Southern California. I believe it's in Agora Hills. It might be Calabasas. It's up in that area. It is a very wealthy private school called Harvard Westlake. I believe Wayne Gretzky's kid went there. There's a lot of famous people, because famous people live in Agora Hills and Calabasas. They send their kids to that private school. They've recently found themselves in some controversy. Apparently, this was happening a couple years ago with their, water polo team. I had to think about which sport it was. I wanted to go to baseball, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Apparently, there was bullying, as well as racism and sexual abuse that were happening within the water polo team. I believe a lot of it was disguised as what do you call it? Hazing. That's the word I'm looking for. But we all know, if you have any common sense, you know that hazing usually doesn't end up going well. It just doesn't. And we found out that the high school covered it up. In fact, the main student athlete who was accused of doing this has gone on to college and has gone on to continue playing water polo and possibly working with the U.S. men's water polo team. As a parent, I can tell you this is terrifying, but also not surprising. See, as I said earlier in the episode, I grew up in San Diego in the 90s. If you were alive in San Diego in the 90s, you might have heard of a certain news story involving the Rancho Bernardo High School baseball team. It involved boys from the team in a shower and a broomstick. And you can figure out what else was happening there. And it was a huge thing when that broke. Now, this is not getting nearly the coverage that it should be, because this is absolutely horrible. And we're looking at a private institution. They don't get public funds, but because there's so much money flowing into that institution, they just cover things up like this. They don't want to have a bad reputation as a school. So instead of handling it, punishing students, and making internal changes so this doesn't happen again, they simply covered it up. Now, again, terrifying as a parent. You want to know that you're sending your children to a safe space when they go to school. And as far as I'm concerned, Harvard-Westlake is not a safe space when it comes to sending your kids to school. I don't care if you're like, well, it's just the athletic department. Regardless of it, even if it was just one person, the fact that the school covered this up, there's just no excuse for that. Absolutely no excuse. So I hope Harvard-Westlake gets what's coming to them. I may be biased, but I can't stand when rich white people game the system. I can't stand it. And I hope they get what's coming to them, because it's absolutely disgusting. Speaking of absolutely disgusting, this is something that's always a constant bother to me, and that would be school policies in general. But living in the Los Angeles Unified School District area, I want to talk about that specifically. So nowadays, and this is not how I remember it when I was a kid. Nowadays, there is such a focus on attendance, and I get it. I understand to an extent. And they're just, kids got to be in school, And public institutions, public school districts like this, they attach funds to how many kids are attending on a daily basis. So I don't even put it on my kids' school themselves, put it on the policy that the school district enacts. And please don't get me wrong. Kids should go to school. If we're talking about kids playing hooky, that's what we used to call it back in the day. Playing hooky from school. You're skipping school. You're skipping class. I was a pretty decent student. I got good grades, which is probably why I could skip school now and then, because I wasn't failing everything and not showing up to class all the time. But the thing is, they've created this culture where kids are afraid to miss school. My kid does not want to miss school. She had a dentist appointment the other day at 9 a.m., which meant she was missing like 45 minutes of school. She started freaking out about it. She didn't want to miss school. She didn't want to get in trouble for being tardy. And this goes both ways, because yes, kids should not want to miss school just because, but at the same time, we have created a culture in which kids are going to school sick. Kids are going to school when they really could use what we call a mental health day. When I was in school, you could be sick. You were throwing up. You didn't go to school. Nowadays, they're like, we don't care. Wheel them in. They're stuck to a bed. Wheel that bed into class. And it's amazing to me. We need to find a balance. And there needs to not so much be all of the funds attached to the attendance on a daily basis. We need to look at it from a more subjective standpoint, not just numbers. Kids need to be able to be sick. If you have kids at home, they're petri dishes. They come home, all kinds of germs and stuff. So we send kids to school, and they're just getting the other kids sick. I remember being second grade. Chickenpox broke out in our area of San Diego. Oh my God, kids in the neighborhood. My entire second grade class all kind of got it at one point. I missed 2 weeks of school. It was like the greatest 2 weeks ever, because I didn't get really bad chickenpox. I couldn't go to school because I couldn't get the kids sick. I had to wait until it ran its course. And in those situations, well, I'm in second grade. So first, how much am I missing? How much addition and subtraction am I missing? But it made sense because you kind of, kids missed, and then you're talking about that for the kids that came back and everything else. And then there was times in high school I would take a mental health day. I don't have it today. It's going to be more beneficial for me to take some time off than it is to be in school. And it wasn't, oh my God, you need to be in school. Now, the one exception back then, and I'm sure it's still the case, was if you were participating in sports, high school sports, is CIF regulations or whatever. It's California Interscholastic Federation, whatever. You had to go to three out of 6 classes if you were competing in high school sports that day. That one I kind of get. And I'll be honest, there was times where we kind of get, maybe you weren't 100%, but yeah, I mean, I ran track. I had to race sometimes, even if it wasn't 100%. So I'd go to 3 classes, and I'd sit in the nurse's office for 3 classes and recover a little. I don't know why that alarm still goes off when I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Anyway, so I want to live in a society where we don't put that much pressure on kids. My daughter is 9. 9. And she's terrified to miss school. And then on top of that, here at LAUSD, we have a superintendent who's now on leave, but he's under investigation by the FBI. Carvalho is his last name. As soon as this guy got appointed, I was like, This guy is slimy, sketchy. I don't like this guy at all. And sure enough, my thoughts came true, and now we have him on leave, and we've got an interim supervisor, whatever, head of LAUSD. But all that, and we got a guy that's gaming the system and losing money, lost millions of dollars, millions. So now the kids have to suffer. Budgets at the schools get cut because this guy lost millions of dollars. And for those of you that are not in Los Angeles or don't have kids, yes, it had to do with artificial intelligence. AI. Fucking hell. All right. We did some house rearranging over the past week or so in my house. Let me tell you, kids, they're not super into change. My daughter she must have had dance class. My kid's at dance class like 3-4 days a week. It's all the ballet and the tap and the musical theater. My wife and I rearranged our living room. She came home and, oh my God, the tears started flowing. She wanted everything the way it was. She was insisting that we put it back the way it was. Now, since then, it has gotten better. She's come around to it. And I had to explain, sometimes you got to change and refresh. And honestly, the flow of our house just made it better. And so it worked in the end, but geez, and we're not easy with her. And honestly, we're adjusting. It's literally been a week, and I'm doing it less now. But I would walk out from the kitchen for the first few days and be like, "Oh my God, what? Oh yeah, we rearranged this place." And it's a constant thing you got to do. In fact, my wife and daughter, I believe, are in my daughter's room right now, doing some rearranging and reorganizing. I'm afraid to see it. Because my daughter does not keep her room very clean. She got too much stuff. And that's, partly my fault. Partly, everyone's fault. Grandma's fault. Grandpa's fault. She just got so much stuff. But it's hard to keep clean. And I am a very organized person. That's just how I am. My wife can kind of go either way. I'm a very organized person. So if I walk in there and I'm immediately anxiety. And then I'm stepping on stuff. I'm like, worried the dog's under something. We don't have a very large dog. We're stepping on a dog, stepping on Legos, everything else. Constant battle. All right, let's move along to some common sense. That's right. The theme of these episodes, common sense. We'll see. I think we're finally getting through some of these microphone issues. Playing with cords, new setups. You would think after, 9 years of this that we'd have it. Nah. Really, 9 years? God, almost 10 years. Almost 10 years ago, tell it to the wall. All right, like I said, some common sense. International Women's Day. Today is International Women's Day. March is actually International Women's Month. So I encourage you to... Well, actually, I will say one thing. For those of you that have not been listening since the beginning, and this goes, oh my God, way back. It actually popped up in my memories today. I would encourage you to go listen to episode 14 of Go Tell It to the Wall. Not Common Sense Sundays, episode 14. Episode 14 of Go Tell It to the Wall, the original format that we used to do, and we still do now and then. That one was entirely dedicated to women's rights and International Women's Day. Believe it or not, I actually back things up with statistics. We use common sense here. I yell at a wall. We don't always have a lot of statistics. That one I backed up with a lot of statistics. I've seen some posts saying, what? Women have not had it rough. And immediately I said, well, we're doing an entire episode. I live with 2 women. My wife keeps this family together. I don't know what would happen if my wife wasn't here. My daughter's going to end up being much more intelligent than I am. She's already more confident than I. At 9 years old, I was terrified to talk in front of people. My daughter doesn't have that problem. So y'all better watch out. You think it's a little crazy right now with me ranting at a wall. Wait till she gets a little older. It's going to be nuts. And it's much needed recognition. Again, women have been marginalized in this country, around the world, but especially in this country, since forever. There was a time women couldn't vote. We can go way back to that. There was a time women could not initiate divorce. And you want to talk about when women could not initiate divorce? I was alive. I was alive when they gained the right to initiate divorce. I was alive, or it might have been just before I was alive, when a woman could open a checking account. We're not talking hundreds of years ago, people. We're talking my lifetime. And while I'm old, I'm not that freaking old. And for anyone out there, probably not anyone that would be listening to this podcast, but if you run across anyone that says, well, what about International Men's Day? And their hands on their hips. Well, what I say to you is that's every other fucking day throughout the year. You want International Men's Day? 364 days of the year. There's your fucking days. Give me a break with that shit. All right. Oh, my God. I've been, I talked about, I think it was our first episode back, in house repairs. So here in Los Angeles over the past few months, it's calmed down lately. Over the past few months, we got a ton of rain. We got a ton of rain. And I love the rain. Now, it was too much at one time. For those of you not aware, we get it all at once, and it does help to an extent. We have officially come out of an official drought for the first time in forever. I mean, we'll be back in it eventually. But when we get such a high volume of rain, it only does so much good as opposed to maybe other parts of the country, other parts of the world that get rain like throughout the year. You get a couple summer showers and it's great. We just get pounded in the winter a few different times with these big winter storms. It's freezing and it's raining. And then what happens is, and even me, I live in the city. I live in a very urban area, but we do have a little bit of grass. We've got some plants and stuff. Good Lord, the amount of weeds that are going on in my yard right now, and even in my backyard where there's a lot of concrete. We had a couple weeds that were taller than my daughter. Since pulled those. But it's so overwhelming, I just can't get to it. And in fact, a few weeks ago, I was talking to a friend who actually has a very large patch of grass in their backyard. And I was like, man, is your yard just messed up too? He's like, I don't even know what to do with it. I'm just going to wait till it heats up and at least dries out a little bit. And I'm like, yeah. And there's only so much you can do. And please, if you are someone that gets a bunch of weeds, do not use like the Roundup and stuff. Just use some vinegar. The chemical stuff is not good for the environment. It's just not. I use vinegar as much as I can. But even then, it's just so overwhelming. And it's one thing after another. I had a tree, like a bush tree thing. It's funny, I'm pointing at it, like as if you can see it. It's right outside this window, actually. No. When all the rain came through, the thing started to tilt over. And one day I'm sitting on my porch doing something, and I look over, I'm like, that bush is not standing straight up anymore. So I'm out there. Finally fixed it the other day. I'm out there with like these giant yard stakes, pounding them in the ground, tying the thing up. I even had my wife out there helping. I was like, I just need you to hold it while I'm pounding these stakes in, trying to get the damn thing. It's one thing after another. Well, and then we had the wind come in this week. We're under a wind advisory right now. And I got this stinking jacaranda that's not even my tree. It's the city's tree. It's in front of my house. All that thing does is just leaves come flying up. It's not the flowers right now. Right now it's the leaves and the seed pods. We get to the flowers in the spring, and then I'm cursing all the purple sticky flowers. Everyone's, oh, it's so gorgeous, a jacaranda. Yeah, because you don't live with one. Constant upkeep on this damn thing. All right. This one. So last night, here's the thing is we do live in a very urban area. I'm in Highland Park, Los Angeles, which is a neighborhood of Los Angeles. I can look out from my backyard and you can see downtown, part of the skyline. There's a couple mountains in the way, but you can see downtown. You can hear fireworks occasionally from Dodger Stadium. But at the same time, there is still nature around. We got a big mountain. I don't want to call it a mountain, but a hill over here. And one thing that we get lots of animals. We got raccoons and possums like crazy. I got a squirrel that lives in one of the trees here. Call him Squirrely Dan. Little Letterkenny reference for those of you that have watched that show. But one of the other things that we do get is coyotes. In fact, I find myself at least once a week chasing a coyote off. And I'm not running at him with a stick or anything. I go out there and I clap and yell, go, go, go. I don't get that close. Well, last night, we're up a little later. I don't know why. watching something. So I let my dog out, and we've got a gated property, gated front yard. And I'm talking to my wife just inside for a second. I hear him start barking, and he's a good Lord, is he a barker? I'm sure he's been heard on this podcast before, but I could tell. I was like, oh God, that's Coyote. And I go out, and he's at the gate barking his ass off at this coyote. And we're not talking a baby coyote. We're talking a full-grown coyote just standing there at my gate looking at my dog. So my wife comes out, and I said, get him inside right now. And so Coyote sees me and starts running. I go out, and I go down the street. Again, I'm staying like, at least 20 feet away from him. But because I don't want to hurt a coyote. I just want to say, we got a ton of small dogs. My block, my street, I think every house has at least one dog, and many of them are smaller dogs. And for those of you who know where coyotes, the way they operate is they will send a coyote out, like that, for instance, and the coyote will get a dog all riled up, and then the dog will bark, and the coyote will kind of go off and start running away, and the dog will chase him, and then suddenly the dog finds himself facing an entire pack of coyotes. So I try to keep him off the street for that reason. Again, I'm not shooting him. I don't know what the laws are here, but I know in most parts of San Diego, you actually can't like shoot a coyote or anything like that unless they're threatening your livestock. Now, coyote comes over my fence and starts going after my dog, and then yes, I'm probably grabbing a baseball bat. But if it's just running off, I just please go back up to the hills, go find some rats or some gophers or something. Please don't eat people's dogs on our street. But this was, like I said, it's I'm constantly doing it, but this one was just like, oh my God, you're just standing there, huh? You're standing there staring at my dog. Then it's a stupid little dog barking his ass off at you. It's like, man, I constantly tell my dog, I'm like, and even with other dogs, we got like a German Shepherd that lives next door who doesn't care for the thoughts of these little dogs, but they'll come walking by and might, rah, 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 rah. And once in a while, you just hear a big, like, booming, oh. And the shepherd's like, yeah, shut up, little dog. And I'm like, buddy, that dog will eat you if it wants to. It's kind of a little Napoleon complex going on there. Lots of little dogs do. I do want to rant about this for a second. So, my wife's headlight went out recently, a couple weeks ago. And she's like, I got to get a new headlight. And I was like, yep, got to do that. Now, my wife's car is a 2016. It's a Subaru. So depending on how old of a car you drive, I feel like nowadays with cars, you open up the hood, and it's basically just like a block, and you're like, holy shit. It's like, see, I grew up with cheap cars, and even my not cheap cars, like I had a 2004 Toyota Highlander. You open that thing up, you're like, all right, I can see here. All right, look, that's air filter. I've changed lots of headlight bulbs. Good Lord. I went out today, and so on Friday, we're driving home from picking up some dinner. My wife goes, and we're in the neighborhood, so there's like street lights and stuff, and and it wasn't complete, like there was the side light things that were on. She's like, I don't think I have any headlights right now. And I look, I'm like, you don't. Luckily, we're a couple blocks from home. Just pulling the driveway. No more driving at night until we get those replaced. So I go out and get them. And I never had to use YouTube for like my old cars when I'm putting it. And I was like, okay. This thing had involved unscrewing a thing and pulling a thing out just to get to the damn thing. And then what they do nowadays is it's like a 2-inch wire. Okay? I have pretty big hands. I could not even get my hand in to pull the damn thing out. And it's like 85 degrees in Los Angeles today. I'm sweating. I'm cursing at this car and everything else. And for those of you that have never changed headlight, you don't want to touch the headlight, the bulb itself with your hands. You get the hand oils on there. It kind of messes up the bulb and makes it not last as long. It'll burn the oil on there. So I've also got like rubber gloves on as I'm doing this, and I'm cursing Subaru, man, cursing them. So that's my first time with these more modern cars that I've had to do it, and I know it's going to happen with my car at some point. Mine's only 2 years old, so I guess my wife's is I've had it a little over 9 years, and that's the first time we've had to change the headlights. So I probably got another few years on my car, but I'm dreading that one. I am dreading that one, but we got it done. Just should have been an easier expedition. Not expedition in the car. Easier experience. I guess that's a better word for it. All right, one more thing here on common sense, and we're still going to invoke some common sense in entertainment news, but I want to talk about a little thing that happened down there in Texas, which got extra funny in the past day or so. So for those of you that didn't hear, they closed some airspace in El Paso, and the United States government thought there was a drone from another country. I don't even understand what their thoughts were. They shot down this drone over El Paso. Well, it turns out that drone was a United States Border Patrol drone. They shot down their own fucking drone. Okay? Which is really ridiculous to begin with. But then, I believe it was yesterday, and I don't want to laugh about this part. Yesterday, because if you haven't heard, there's been talks of, and I'm sure it happened, about, bombing Iran, and a school was bombed in Iran. Unfortunately, lots of kids lost their lives. And so the Orange Menace was asked about it. I believe this was yesterday. And he said, no, that must have been Iran. Iran must have bombed that school. We don't make mistakes and we don't miss. And as soon as I saw the clip of him saying that, I'm like, you shot down your own fucking drone. You can't do that and then be like, no, we know where we're shooting things. That's not how that works. That's not how any of that works. So I don't mean to bring any kind of comedy to that, because it is an absolute tragedy that these children lost their lives over a war that they don't care about. This is rich assholes firing bombs at each other. This is not the world that I want for my kids. This is not the world anyone should want for their kids. But give me a break with that. U.S. doesn't miss. Jesus. You can't believe anything you hear out of this administration. There's no consequences. They just make shit up. And parts of the country just eats that up, and they're like, yes, this is great. Yes, we're bombing the shit out of people. Really? You're cheering killing people, and now they're probably going to reinstate the draft, so I hope anyone cheering this on, I hope your kids are the first one to get fucking drafted. That's the only thing that would make any of this remotely okay. Not even okay. It doesn't make it okay, but it would be a little bit of the FAFO. At least give us that, for the love of God. Preferably no draft at all. Let's not have a conflict here. Let's knock this shit off. They killed the high leader, or whatever they call that guy that's been in place since 1989. And they're like, new leadership in Iran. Well, they appointed the new one. It's the dude's son. You think it's going to be any different? Give me a break. All right, entertainment news. So yesterday I started watching the newest installment of Game of Thrones. It's called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. It's available there on HBO or whatever. I'd kind of been putting it off. I got other stuff to watch. And then there was a meme. This doesn't spoil anything. Well, the guy shitting behind a tree. And I was like, well, this doesn't seem like something I want to watch. And sure enough, the first episode that happened. I'm going, okay, I don't need the grossness. We get it. They didn't have toilets back then. That's fine. We don't need to show it. Okay? I'm not into the poop humor. I just never have been. But, and this is again without spoiling it, I watched the first couple episodes, and after like the second, maybe, I think I'm 3 episodes in. It was after the second episode. I'm sitting there and I'm going, this is Game of Thrones does A Knight's Tale. And that doesn't spoil anything. Like, I'm not giving you specifics here, but it very much has that vibe. For those of you not aware, A Knight's Tale was a movie that came out in the 90s starring Heath Ledger. I want to say, what's his name was in it? The guy that does all the funky voices for the Disney. Alan Tudyk, I think, was in it. It had some stars in it. And it had Shannon Sossamon, I think, was in it. She was very popular in the 90s. And it's fine. It's a fine movie. Nothing against the movie. But it was a comedic, kind of modern take on knights, in those times, in medieval times. And this Night of the Seven Kingdom, very much giving off A Knight's Tale vibes. The first episode I was like, am I going to keep watching this? It does get better. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's worth a watch if you're a Game of Thrones fan. And to go back, I do understand why they did the joke with the guy taking a dump behind a tree. It was just unnecessary. I don't think it landed the way they expected. All right, what I'm listening to lately. That's right. I like to throw this segment in there. What I'm listening to. So this album actually came out a few months ago. I was listening to it then, but I found myself once again this past week or so listening to the newest album from Empire. That is, the album name is Strikes Back. That's right. Empire is the band. Strikes Back is the album name. It is their second album. They are a very new band. I've talked about Empired before. I would consider Bruce a good friend. I know the other guys pretty well, but Bruce, who is one of the guitarists and one of the lead singers, I would call a good friend of mine. Highly recommend checking out their second album, Strikes Back. If you have not gone and listened to their first album, make sure you do that as well. I believe that one's just self-titled. And of course, for those of you on the video feed, we got the Empired sticker right there on the wall. They got a big sticker. And actually, there's two stickers. One of them's covered. We got the E over there that's kind of covered by my other set of headphones here. So make sure you're checking out Empired. They put out 2 great albums. They are fantastic live if you get a chance to catch them live. They are a band out of Southern California, Orange County specifically. I don't know where all of them are from, but Bruce lives in Orange County, and I believe many of them also live in that area. And we're going to talk about Bruce's wife's band in a couple minutes here. So it's been a little while. I have a couple shows that I did not talk about since our last episode. I had the pleasure of seeing Hartwell's, Big Time, and 3 Chords. We have talked about 3 Chords before on this podcast a couple of times, I believe. They actually played a free show, no cover show at the Escondite here in Los Angeles. Really love that venue. If you're in Los Angeles, you get a chance to go. It's funny because you look it up on a map. It's in the middle of Skid Row. It's Skid Row, and there's nothing wrong with Skid Row. It's just not somewhere you want to go hang out necessarily. But it's kind of this hidden gem in the middle of Skid Row. They have their own parking lot. It's gated. You don't have to pay for parking. The food is fantastic. The drink prices are absolutely reasonable. So I had the pleasure of seeing those 3 bands, which I encourage you to check out all 3 of them. Hartwell's, they've been around for a while. They're out of Long Beach. I find myself catching them quite a bit because they do play. They play Alex's a lot. They've played the Redwood quite a few times. So I've seen them multiple times. Now, Big Time, they are a new band out of Seattle. And I found them because their drummer is one of my favorite drummers in the scene right now, who I've talked about before, and that is Josh Slees. He is the drummer for 3 Chords, and he is also the drummer, is the former drummer of the Bomb Pops, and is now the drummer of Big Time. They are brand new, and I will say my good friend, I hadn't listened to him yet before I went to the show. I knew I was going to go see him. And he said, you know those old Rancid songs that where Lars is the lead singer and it's a little screaming? I was like, yeah. And I was like, in a good way. He's like, oh yeah. And sure enough, it was so not crowded. I'm sitting there drinking my beer. We're all sitting at one of the tables, and I'm going, holy crap, this is a fantastic band. So check out Big Time out of Seattle. And of course, 3 Chords, who I've talked about before on the podcast. They are just a lot of fun. It's one thing to listen to their album. If you get a chance to catch 3 Chords live, they are fantastic live, and they're all good friends as well. Mike Garrett always cracks me up. I love when that's one of those bands where I end up standing close by and kind of egging them on, in a fun way. They like to joke around a lot. And then last weekend, this was last Sunday at Alex's, I had the pleasure of seeing Urethane and the Last Gang. Now there was there was some sadness to this because on last Saturday I was supposed to be seeing the Last Gang along with Coffin Cats, and then the Last Gang at Echoplex here in Los Angeles, and then I was supposed to be seeing them the next day at Alex's. Unfortunately, the drummer for Coffin Cats, his newborn child passed away, so they had to postpone the tour. Which really, they said they were going to cancel it. Since then, they have decided they're going to pick up the rest of the tour. So I'll actually be seeing Coffin Cats this coming Thursday at Echoplex. Unfortunately, not with Last Gang, because Last Gang just headed out on another tour. But I did get a chance to see Urethane along with Last Gang. And for those of you not familiar with Last Gang, I don't know how much we've talked about them. There is a sticker. I was looking before the podcast. There's definitely a sticker there. There's a Urethane sticker right there. In fact, that is like the first Urethane sticker they ever did. But Last Gang, the lead singer and guitarist for Last Gang, Brenna, her husband is Bruce, who I just talked about. So, keep it all in the family. They're a great band on Fat Wreck. They put out a new album. Gosh, it might be like a year ago now. But highly recommend checking them out. They've got multiple albums. They're a fantastic band live. Their studio albums are also great. Urethane, which was funny. I was talking to those guys before they played. I'm outside at the merch booth talking to them, and I was like, I actually saw you guys play your very first show years ago. Their first show they played in Big Bear at Gutterfest, which was at a venue up there in Big Bear that's no longer there. But they played with Guttermouth, and the main reason I had gone up there originally was Chaser was playing. We've talked about Chaser many times on this show. I'm wearing a Chaser shirt. Good Lord, I didn't even pay attention to what shirt I'm wearing. So that's the band for those of you watching the video feed. and randomly caught them in their very first show ever. So it was fun to catch up with them. They're a fun band to see live. They call themselves Dad Punk, which is kind of like, yeah, no, I get that. And they're all from San Diego, so and similar age to me. So it's like we all kind of grew up on the same stuff, which then turned into to sharing some of the gossip situation. And I'm not going to get into the gossip. That was between me and those guys. But man, it was fun getting into some of the gossip with them and what's going on with some other bands and reminiscing. We were reminiscing about like the original Soma. You know, I talked about how I'm from Poway, and they were like, you know, did you have any Blink merch that was just Blink, which I never did. Well, that's not even I'll give you this. It's not even a gossip thing. Apparently, Blink did some recording, like early on, did some recording in a studio in Santee. Don't go hang out in Santee, for the love of God. Just trust me on that. Don't go hang out there. And this guy had a studio there years and years and years later. They had like an original Blink sticker. And I can't even remember if the guy said it was signed or not. But there's like a Blink-182 fan group from Europe. And the head of that fan group came out to San Diego, went to that studio in Santee. The guy cut out the drywall of the sticker, sold it to this European fan group guy for $15,000. $15,000. And I was like, well, now I wish I had some original Blink stuff. And that goes back to, I had a lot of Blink-182 stuff. That goes back to losing all my shirts in the Cedar Fire in 2003. All right, we got a couple more things here I want to talk about. But make sure you're checking out Urethane and Last Gang. Last Gang, one of my favorite bands in the scene right now. They just bring so much energy to the stage and to their studio albums. I want to talk about Punk in the Park, the elephant in the room. For those of you that are in the scene, you know what's going on. I talked last episode about selective outrage. Now, everybody that was complaining, and I get it. Let me caveat this with, I understand the outrage. I totally get it. You know, if somebody contributed a couple $100 to the Trump campaign years ago, and that guy happens to be one of the founders of Punk in the Park. They finally got it just basically canceled. They canceled all the tour dates that were outside of Southern California because of this outrage. Bands started dropping off. You know, and understandably, that's not what is ridiculous. What's ridiculous is the selective outrage that a lot of people do here. So, let me give you a couple examples. Brouhaha is the company that puts on Punk in the Park. They currently have a show that's happening on the 14th, March 14th, down in Irvine. We've had crickets about that. I believe one band did drop off. The Aquabats dropped off. Still happening. Now, I mean, you can get tickets on Groupon, so it's not like it's that popular. But crickets about that one. And there's a Sublime tour that is being put on by Brouhaha. No talk of that whatsoever. And the one that really got me this week, because here's the thing. I want to point out, it is one guy. And full disclosure, I was at the last Punk in the Park in San Pedro back in September or October. And all the bands at that festival, we had lots of bands that clearly would not be supporting the Orange Menace. Clearly. I mean, we're talking Dead Pioneers. You think they're supporting the Orange? No. And all those bands come out there and they thanked all the other bands, all the workers, and all the vendors that were out there. And the important thing there is to keep in mind, yes, you have shut down this festival. Yes, I understand why. I completely support that you can do that. But you've also taken the money out of people's pockets. In fact, one of my friends who has a record store has been doing the Punk in the Park events from the very beginning. And he said to me last year, he said, you know, it's all of us that built this thing. It's not this one guy. We're the ones that make it a festival. And he brought up an excellent point. And the thing I really want to point out to people right now, this past week we had a huge, huge show announcement for Los Angeles, Face to Face. They're doing a 35th anniversary show here in Los Angeles in April. Now, of course, I bought a ticket right away, not so much because of Face to Face, but because Unwritten Law and Homegrown are also playing the show. Everyone lost their minds. Everyone had to get tickets right away to go see Face to Face. Of all those bands back at the last Punk in the Park in San Pedro, all of them thanked vendors, workers, other bands, and the fans for being there. Face to Face also played that festival. The lead singer of Face to Face thanked one person. That one person was a guy named Cameron, who is the actual guy that donated to the Orange Menace. So that's where the selective outrage is a little ridiculous. Because if you're going to go after that, maybe we should also go after the band that is supporting the guy that you are trying to just wipe off the face of the earth. That's the selective outrage. And on top of that, they're all posting this on social platforms from their fucking iPhone. Apple gave Trump like a gold-plated iPhone a while ago. All the tech guys went and bent the knee to the Orange Menace. If we're going for one, we go for all. Not to mention Live Nation and how much money they have given to the Orange Menace and his administration. And here's the thing, where I fall on it, and I've talked to many friends, we're stuck with Live Nation. It's a monopoly. I talked at the top of the episode. I guarantee you, there's athletes and sports teams that you look up to that are Republicans. The goddamn owner of the Dodgers and now the owner of the Lakers owns ICE detention facilities. Everyone's still wearing their Dodgers gear. So give me a break with the selective outrage. All right, one more thing I want to mention here. Barstool Preachers. They got a new album that's coming out. Can't remember the exact date, but they just launched some crowdfunding because they're independently releasing this new album. No record label on this one, independently releasing it. So it's a crowdfunding, but it's not just a donate. You're actually pre-ordering albums. There's all kinds of other cool stuff on there, so I encourage you to check that out. Just look up Barstool Preachers on all the socials. They've got videos out there and stuff explaining everything. They actually are just finishing up a tour with Less Than Jake and Bouncing Souls over in the UK. And they have a new single out, Pick Your Side. Pick Your Side. So definitely check those out. For those of you who have been listeners of the podcast for a long time, you know that we're huge fans of the Barstool Preachers. I run their fan group on Facebook. They are also very close personal friends, and we're hoping they get back to the U.S. soon as we get rid of these ridiculous visa costs that the Orange Menace has implemented everywhere. All right. Well, that's going to do it. I'm exhausted. Stupid time change. I'm telling you, we got to get rid of the damn time change. All right, before we go, don't forget you can keep up with us on the social platforms, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall, and, of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean on Instagram, and, of course, SeanO'RourkeLive.com, which is going to give you links to all those things as well as other exclusive content that does not get posted on other platforms. All right, that is going to do it. For episode 130 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell Us the Wall, hosted by me, your favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. We will be back within the next week or two, so keep an eye out for new episodes. And until then, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you're going, especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.